There comes a moment in every life when the ground beneath you feels too small for the dreams rising within you. A moment when comfort begins to feel like a cage and fear disguises itself as safety. In that moment, something deep inside you whispers, not loudly but persistently, calling you toward a path you cannot fully see. It is not certainty that moves you forward, nor guarantees that steady your step. It is the quiet, unshakable knowing that staying where you are will cost you more than the risk of stepping out. And so you stand there, heart trembling, soul stirring, faced with a single, life-altering truth. You have to take a chance. There is a voice within you that does not shout, does not demand, and does not rush to be heard. It speaks in still moments, in the pauses between your doubts, in the silence you often try to fill with distraction. It is gentle, yet persistent, and it carries a truth you cannot quite ignore. It tells you that there is more, more to who you are, more to what you can become, more waiting just beyond the borders of your hesitation. You may try to silence it with logic, with fear, with the comfort of what you already know, but it does not disappear. It waits patiently because it understands something you are still learning, that your life is meant to be lived, not merely managed. This quiet voice does not promise ease. It does not paint pictures of a path free from struggle or uncertainty. Instead, it offers something far more powerful. It offers possibility. And possibility, in its purest form, is both beautiful and terrifying. It asks you to trust what you cannot yet see, to move without guarantees, to believe in outcomes that have not yet taken shape. It asks you to step beyond the familiar, knowing that the familiar has never been the place where greatness grows. And still, despite the trembling in your hands and the questions in your mind, that voice remains, reminding you that fear is not a reason to stop. It is often a sign that you are standing at the edge of something meaningful. You see, fear has a way of disguising itself as wisdom. It tells you to wait, to be careful, to avoid the unknown. It convinces you that safety is the highest goal, that staying where you are is somehow a victory. But deep within, that quiet voice challenges this illusion. It reminds you that every dream you have ever admired, every story that has ever inspired you, began with someone choosing to listen to that same whisper and take a chance. Not because they were fearless, but because they refused to let fear be the author of their lives. And so the question is not whether the voice exists. It does. The question is whether you will listen, whether you will allow it to guide you, even when the path is unclear, whether you will honor that small, persistent knowing that you are capable of more than you have yet allowed yourself to become. Because the truth is, that voice is not leading you away from safety. It is leading you toward growth, toward purpose, toward a life that feels as expansive as the dreams within you. You may not feel ready, you may not feel certain, but readiness is not the requirement. Willingness is. The willingness to take one step, even if your voice shakes. The willingness to trust that what calls you forward is not there to break you, but to build you. And when you choose to listen, when you choose to move, you will begin to understand that the quietest voice within you often carries the loudest truth of all. You were never meant to stay where you are. Fear has been misunderstood for far too long. It arrives uninvited, tightens your chest, clouds your thinking, and convinces you that something is wrong, that you should turn back, stay quiet, remain where it is safe. But fear is not a stop sign placed in your path to keep you small. It is a signal, a living, breathing indication that you are standing at the edge of something that matters. It shows up not when you are settling, not when you are hiding, but when you are about to step into a version of yourself that requires courage. And if you listen closely, beneath its noise, fear is not saying, "Don't go." It is asking, "Are you ready to grow?" There is a strange kind of honesty in fear. It does not visit empty dreams or lifeless desires. It attaches itself to the things that carry weight, the opportunities that could change you, the decisions that could shape your future, the risks that could lead you into a life you have only imagined. You feel it before you speak your truth, before you take the leap, before you choose yourself in a world that has often asked you not to. And in that moment, fear becomes a mirror, reflecting just how much this step means to you. The greater the fear, the deeper the significance. Yet too often you have been taught to treat fear as an enemy. You have been told to avoid it, to silence it, to wait until it disappears before you act. But fear rarely disappears on its own. It lingers, it grows, it reshapes itself into regret when you allow it to make your decisions for you. What if, instead of running from it, you began to understand it? What if you allowed fear to walk beside you, not as a master, but as a companion, one that reminds you that you are venturing beyond the ordinary? Because the truth is, courage does not exist in the absence of fear. Courage is born in its presence. It is the decision to move forward even when your voice trembles, even when your hands are unsteady, even when the outcome is uncertain. It is choosing to believe that what lies ahead holds more promise than the comfort you are leaving behind. Fear may warn you of risk, but it also reveals opportunity. It marks the places where your life has the potential to expand, where your story can deepen, where your strength can be discovered. And so when fear rises within you, do not mistake it for a barrier. Do not let it convince you that you are incapable or unworthy. Instead, pause and recognize it for what it truly is, a signpost pointing towards something meaningful. It is telling you that this moment matters, that this step holds power, that this choice could lead you somewhere you have never been before. You do not have to silence fear to move forward. You only have to decide that it will not decide for you. Take the step anyway. Speak the words anyway. Begin, even if you are unsure of how it will unfold. Let fear be present, but do not let it be in charge. And as you move, you will come to understand that fear was never there to stop you. It was there to show you exactly where your courage was meant to rise. There is a quiet price you begin to pay when you choose to stay where you are, a cost that does not arrive all at once, but gathers slowly in the corners of your life. It shows up in the dreams you postpone, in the ideas you silence, in the parts of yourself that begin to shrink just to fit the shape of your comfort. At first, it feels like safety, like you are protecting yourself from failure, from disappointment, from the unknown. But over time, that same safety starts to feel heavy, like a weight you did not notice you were carrying, because what you call security can quietly become a cage, and what you think is peace can slowly turn into restlessness. You begin to feel it in small, unspoken moments. When you watch others step into their possibilities and wonder what might have happened if you had done the same. When you feel a flicker of excitement for something new, only to push it away before it has the chance to grow. When your days start to look the same, not because they must, but because you have chosen not to change them. There is no loud alarm, no sudden collapse, just a steady drifting away from the life you could have lived. And perhaps the hardest part is that everything on the outside may seem fine, while something on the inside quietly fades. Staying still asks you to trade growth for comfort, and while comfort may feel good in the moment, it rarely leads to fulfillment. You were not created to remain in one place, repeating the same patterns, thinking the same thoughts, living the same limited version of your story. There is something within you that longs to expand, to explore, to become more than you are today. And when you deny that longing, when you ignore that pull, you do not just pause your progress, you begin to lose connection with a deeper part of yourself, the part that dreams, that dares, that believes in more. And then, one day, the cost becomes clearer. It appears in the form of regret, not loud or dramatic, but quiet and persistent. It asks you questions you cannot easily answer. What if you had tried? What if you had trusted yourself? What if you had taken that chance when it first called your name? These questions do not come to punish you, but they do reveal a truth that is difficult to ignore. The pain of not trying often lasts longer than the pain of failure. Failure may bruise your pride, but regret settles into your spirit. The truth is, staying still does not protect you from loss. It simply changes the kind of loss you experience. Instead of risking failure, you risk never discovering what you are capable of. Instead of facing the unknown, you face the certainty of limitation. And while taking a chance may challenge you, stretch you, even unsettle you, refusing to take that chance slowly diminishes you. It keeps your world small when it was meant to grow. So you must ask yourself not what you might lose by moving forward, but what you are already losing by standing still. Because every day you choose not to act is a day that does not return. Every moment you hesitate is a moment that could have been the beginning of something new. And when you begin to see it clearly, you understand that the greatest risk was never in taking the leap. It was in convincing yourself that you did not need to. There is a certain comfort in the familiar, a rhythm you come to know so well that it asks nothing new of you. It holds you gently, wraps your days in predictability, and gives you the illusion that everything is under control. You know what to expect, you know how to respond, and you know how to survive within its boundaries. But there is a subtle danger in this kind of comfort. It can become so soothing that it lulls you into forgetting that you were made for more than repetition. The familiar may feel safe, but it does not always allow you to grow. Beyond that comfort lies the unknown, wide and uncharted, filled with questions you cannot yet answer. It does not offer guarantees or certainty. It does not promise that everything will go as planned. And that is exactly why it feels so unsettling. To step into the unknown is to release your grip on what you can control and to trust something deeper than logic. It asks you to believe that even without a clear map, there is a path waiting to be discovered. It asks you to move, not because you are sure, but because something within you refuses to stay still. Faith is often misunderstood as blind belief, but it is far more grounded than that. It is a quiet strength, a steady decision to trust yourself and the direction you feel called toward, even when the outcome is unclear. It is choosing to believe that your steps matter, that your efforts will lead somewhere meaningful, even if you cannot yet see where that somewhere is. Faith does not eliminate doubt. It simply refuses to let doubt have the final say. It allows you to stand at the edge of uncertainty and still take a step forward. The familiar will always try to call you back. It will remind you of how easy things were, how predictable, how safe. It will tempt you with the idea that perhaps you were better off before you started reaching for something more. And in moments of difficulty, that voice can sound convincing. But what it does not tell you is that returning to what is comfortable often means abandoning what is possible. It asks you to trade growth for ease, expansion for limitation, purpose for predictability. Choosing the unknown is not about rejecting everything you have known. It is about refusing to let it define the limits of your life. It is about understanding that who you have been is only a starting point, not a final destination. Every step you take into unfamiliar territory stretches you, teaches you, reshapes your understanding of what you are capable of. It may feel uncertain, even overwhelming at times, but within that uncertainty is where transformation begins. You do not need to have all the answers before you begin. You do not need to feel completely ready or entirely fearless. What you need is the willingness to trust that there is something ahead worth stepping toward. That your life is not meant to be confined to what you already know, but expanded by what you are willing to discover. And when you choose faith over familiarity, you are not just taking a chance on the unknown, you are taking a chance on yourself. So let the familiar be a place you appreciate, but not a place you remain. Let it be a foundation, not a boundary. And when the moment comes to choose between what is known and what is possible, choose the path that asks you to grow. Because it is in that choice, in that quiet act of faith, that you begin to step into a life far greater than the one you have been settling for. Every chance you take becomes a mark upon the story you are living, a line written not in ink but in courage. Your life is not shaped only by the moments that felt certain or safe, but by the decisions you made when the outcome was unclear, when the path was unsteady, when you chose to move forward anyway. These are the moments that give your story depth, that turn it from something ordinary into something worth telling, because it is not the absence of risk that defines you. It is your willingness to face it. You are always in the process of becoming, always unfolding into someone new, and every chance you take contributes to that becoming. Each risk, whether it leads to success or struggle, leaves something behind within you. It teaches you, stretches you, reveals parts of yourself you may never have discovered otherwise. Even the chances that do not unfold the way you hoped are not wasted. They become lessons, shaping your understanding, strengthening your resilience, refining your sense of who you are. In this way, nothing is lost. Every step adds meaning. There is a quiet power in knowing that you are the author of your own story, not in the sense that you control every outcome, but in the sense that you choose how the story moves forward. You decide whether it remains confined to what is comfortable or expands into something bold and unpredictable. You decide whether the pages are filled with hesitation or with courage. And while you cannot erase the past, you are always holding the pen for what comes next. Every chance you take is a sentence written with intention, a declaration that your life will not be lived on the sidelines. Some chapters will feel heavy. There will be moments when the risks you took did not lead where you expected, when the road became more difficult than you imagined. But even in those chapters, there is growth taking place. There is strength being built in ways that ease could never provide. And one day, when you look back, you will not only see the outcome, you will see the person you became because you dared to try. You will see how those uncertain steps carried you into a deeper understanding of yourself and your capacity. What you must remember is that a story without chances is a story that never truly begins. It remains safe, predictable, untouched by the very experiences that give it life. But when you take a chance, you introduce movement, change, and possibility. You allow your story to breathe, to evolve, to become something that reflects not just who you were, but who you chose to become despite the fear. So do not wait for the perfect moment to begin writing. Do not wait until you are certain that every chapter will end the way you want it to. Life does not offer that kind of guarantee. What it offers instead is the opportunity to create something real, something layered, something honest. And that only happens when you are willing to take chances, to step into the unknown, to trust that each risk is adding something valuable to the story you are living. In the end, it will not be the easy moments that define your life, but the brave ones. The moments when you stood at the edge of uncertainty and chose to move forward anyway. Those are the chapters that stay with you, the ones that shape your identity, the ones that remind you that your story was never meant to be small. There is a kind of fear that clings not to the unknown, but to the possibility of falling short. It whispers that if you try and fail, something about you will be exposed, something permanent will be decided. It convinces you that failure is not just an outcome, but a definition, that it will mark you, limit you, and leave you with something you cannot undo. And so you hesitate, not because you lack desire, but because you have been taught to see failure as an ending instead of what it truly is, a beginning in disguise. Failure has never been a final verdict on your worth. It has never had the authority to decide who you are or what you are capable of becoming. It is instead a moment, often uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but always temporary. And within that moment, there is something quietly powerful taking place. There is a lesson unfolding, a truth revealing itself, a strength being formed that could not have existed without the experience itself. But to see this, you must be willing to look beyond the surface of disappointment. When you fall, you are forced to see clearly. You begin to understand what worked and what did not, where your strengths lie and where your growth is needed. You become aware in ways that success alone could never teach you. Success can affirm, but failure refines. It shapes your perspective, deepens your resilience, and teaches you how to stand again, not in the same way as before, but stronger, wiser, and more aware of your own capacity. It does not take anything from you that you cannot rebuild. Instead, it offers you the tools to rebuild better. And yet, many walk away at the first sign of failure, believing that the fall itself is proof that they were not meant for the path they chose. But what if the fall is not a signal to stop? What if it is an invitation to grow? Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has encountered failure along the way, not once, but many times. The difference is not that they avoided it, but that they refused to let it define them. They understood that failure was not the opposite of success, but a part of it. There is a quiet strength in rising after you have fallen, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that builds character from within. Each time you choose to stand again, you are telling yourself a different story, not one of defeat, but of persistence. You are rewriting the meaning of failure, transforming it from something that holds you back into something that moves you forward. And with each attempt, you carry the lessons of the last, becoming more prepared than you were before. You must also understand that failure humbles you in necessary ways. It strips away the illusion that growth is always smooth or predictable. It reminds you that the path to becoming is often uneven, filled with missteps and redirections. But there is grace in that process. There is wisdom in learning through experience rather than avoiding it altogether, because the person who has failed and continued is far more grounded than the one who has never tried at all. So when failure finds you, and it will, do not meet it with shame or surrender. Meet it with curiosity. Ask what it is here to teach you, what it is here to show you about yourself and your journey. Allow it to shape you, but never to stop you. Because failure is not the end of your story. It is a chapter, one that carries lessons you will need for the chapters still to come. And if you have the courage to keep going, to rise again with what you have learned, you will come to see that failure was never there to break you. It was there to prepare you for the strength, the wisdom, and the success you are still growing into. There will be moments in your life when the world grows quiet around your dreams, when the applause you hoped for never comes, and the encouragement you needed seems nowhere to be found. In those moments, it becomes easy to question yourself, to wonder if the vision you carry is too distant, too unrealistic, or simply not meant for you. When no one else can see what you see, doubt begins to speak louder than belief, and uncertainty tries to take the place of your confidence. But it is in these very moments that something deeper is being asked of you. Not proof from the outside, but trust from within. Self-belief is not something that depends on agreement or validation. It does not wait for others to understand your path before it allows you to walk it. It is a quiet, steady force that lives within you, often unnoticed until it is tested. And when everything around you feels uncertain, when voices of doubt begin to rise, self-belief becomes your anchor. It reminds you that your vision was given to you for a reason, even if no one else recognizes it yet. It asks you to stand firm, not because the path is easy, but because it is yours. There is a unique strength required to trust yourself when no one else does. It means moving forward without applause, without reassurance, without the comfort of knowing that others agree with your choices. It means holding on to your purpose even when it feels fragile, even when the results have not yet appeared. This kind of belief is not loud or boastful. It is quiet and enduring. It does not need to prove itself to others. It only needs to remain steady within you. You may find that people doubt you, not always out of malice, but because they cannot see beyond their own limitations. They measure your possibilities by their fears, your potential by their experiences, and your future by what they believe is realistic. And if you are not careful, their uncertainty can begin to shape your own. But you must remember that their perspective is not your destiny. What they cannot see does not make it impossible. It simply means it has not been revealed to them. Self-belief requires you to separate your inner voice from the noise around you. It asks you to listen carefully to what you know deep within, even when it is quieter than everything else. Because that inner voice carries a truth that no external opinion can replace. It knows your strength, your resilience, your ability to grow into something greater than you are today. And while others may only see where you are now, self-belief allows you to see where you are capable of going. This does not mean you will never doubt yourself. Doubt will come, just as it always does when you are stepping into something meaningful. But self-belief is what keeps you moving despite that doubt. It is what allows you to take the next step, even when you are unsure of the outcome. It is what reminds you that you do not need to have everything figured out to begin. You only need to trust that you will find your way as you go. Over time, as you continue to trust yourself, something begins to shift. What once felt uncertain starts to feel possible. What once felt distant begins to take shape, and the belief you held onto in silence starts to reveal itself in your actions, in your growth, in the life you are creating. Not because others finally approved, but because you never stopped believing, even when it was difficult. So when the world is quiet, when support feels absent, when doubt tries to take hold, do not look outward for confirmation. Turn inward. Trust what lives within you. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is believe in yourself long before anyone else does. There is a question that has held more dreams captive than failure ever could, a quiet, persistent whisper that follows you into your decisions and lingers long after the moment has passed. It is the question of what if. What if you are not good enough? What if you fail? What if things do not work out the way you hoped? It appears harmless at first, almost reasonable, as though it is trying to protect you from disappointment. But over time, it begins to build walls around your courage, slowly convincing you that it is safer not to try at all. What if has a way of multiplying. One doubt becomes another, and before you know it, you are surrounded by possibilities that have never even happened, yet feel real enough to stop you in your tracks. You begin to live in imagined outcomes instead of present opportunities. You start making decisions based on fear of what could go wrong, rather than belief in what could go right. And without realizing it, you hand over your power to uncertainties that have no real foundation except your hesitation. But there is another side to what if that you have not fully allowed yourself to explore. What if you succeed? What if this chance changes everything? What if you discover a strength within you that you never knew existed? The same question that holds fear also holds possibility. The difference lies in which direction you choose to let it lead you. Because what if is not the enemy, fear is only one way to interpret it. It can just as easily become an invitation, a doorway into something greater than your current reality. Breaking free from the chains of what if does not mean eliminating uncertainty. It means refusing to let uncertainty control your actions. It means recognizing that you will never have all the answers before you begin, and choosing to move forward anyway. The truth is, no path in life comes with complete clarity. There will always be unknowns, always be risks, always be moments where you have to step forward without knowing exactly how things will unfold. And that is not a weakness, it is part of the journey. When you allow what if to dominate your thinking, you place your life on hold for a future that does not exist. You wait for perfect conditions, for complete confidence, for guarantees that may never come. But life does not reward hesitation in the way you hope it will. It does not pause and wait for you to feel ready. It continues moving, offering opportunities that require action, not certainty. And each time you let what if stop you, you miss a chance to discover what could have been.